Hey, what's up everybody, Axel here. Today we're playing Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and we're going to be talking about the new Supernova ++ Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories Ansem that just dropped today in Global. A few updates though before we go ahead and dive into that. The first thing being this Supernova ++ Kingdom Hearts 3 Lee/Axel banner. My general thoughts are to hold off on it for now. Last time they did this was with Kingdom Hearts 3 Elsa, and then about a week later they dropped Illustrated Sora, who's supposed to be the replacement for Elsa. So for all we know, this is going to be a bait banner, and then they're going to release the next best speed medal as this banner is about to end. So I would hold off on the Axel for now. The other thing is that in the Moogle shop, they did reset the traits that they're selling without telling anybody again. So one of the most important things is that we have Luxord in here now, and likely even I am going to pull for his trait pack. A lot of people have been getting him through the draw points banner, so if you have just a loose copy lying around and you don't have anything for reverse speed, or you need this reverse speed copy medal, this is a good time to pick up the traits for it. Alright, let's go ahead and head back to our new Ansem medal. So first things first, we are going to talk about the banner, then we'll talk about the medal, the draw odds, and finally my thoughts and recommendations, with the first thought actually being this medal looks super sick. I am a huge fan of the Chain of Memories battle system, and honestly my favorite version is going to be the Game Boy version. So a lot of people have played the PlayStation version, but if you haven't tried the Game Boy version, I would highly recommend it. But anyways, going into the banner itself, so you have until June 21st to decide if you want to pull for this. Again, that is a lot of time, and during that time frame, we said it with the Key Art 23 here, a lot can happen. So Key Art 23 came out on June 1st, and now we are 7 days later, and what have we gotten? We've gotten Strikeform Sora, we've gotten Chain of Memories Ansem, we've had trade sales in the Moogle shop. So we're getting a lot of stuff thrown at us that requires jewels. So really, again, I would hold off until the very last day. If you want the medal but you don't need it, you can wait till the last day and decide if you want to pull for him. In terms of the banner, everything is standard. We've talked about it with Key Art 23, Strikeform Sora, and now we're talking about it with Ansem. You are going to spend 3,000 jewels with every single pull. You get 3 Kingdom Hearts 3 medals, which again are going to be used for sub-slots, or they're going to be Supernovas you're going to want to keep, or you're going to sell them for draw points. You get 1 trade medal for Chain of Memories Ansem. You get 6 5-star or higher medals. Again, these are really going to be sold for draw points on average. You get 10 VIP coins, which again are good for any banners that exist in the month of June. So VIP coins you get from Chain of Memories Ansem could be used for Strikeform Sora, or they could be used for Key Art 23 right now. So it's always good to have that versatility with the VIP coins. And then every single pull nets you 3 power gems. Again, gems aren't worth pulling for because there's a lot of different ways to get them, like high score challenges, ranking week, PvP. There's a lot of different ways to get gems, so again, they're not what you pull for. And again, I like how they're keeping this. You are guaranteed a copy of Chain of Memories Ansem in 5 tries. So 15,000 jewels is going to guarantee net you a copy of Chain of Memories Ansem. Now let's go ahead and actually take a look at the medal. So here's the template for Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories Ansem. He's going to be a reverse power medal that is tier 10. Base strength is about average at 47,189. Really, one of the best things about Chain of Memories Ansem is going to be that multiplier, that 21.20 multiplier, which is actually on the higher end of consistent multipliers. So in terms of medals that crack that 21.20, we have the Dark Riku, which only hits at 50% of the time. We have the Gambler that hits at only 25% of the time. I believe not even Final Fantasy VII Remake Sephiroth cracks 21.20. So it's a flat 21.20, which is actually really high for today's standards. It's also a flat multiplier, meaning that no conditions are needed to hit that multiplier. It doesn't matter how high your HP is. It doesn't matter where in the Keyblade it is. It doesn't matter how many gauges you have. That 21.2 multiplier is going to be going through every single time you activate this medal. Not only that, but remember, copy medals. Copy medals copy a multiplier of a medal. So it's going to be copying that 21.20. So having a flat multiplier with no conditions is actually pretty good. In terms of the gauge cost, it's a gauge cost of 5, which means you're likely gonna need an SP gauge reduction skill in order to activate this medal consistently and get the most value out of him. He does 13 hits, which is, it'll play in later when we talk about our review, but really 13 hits, not too great for raids just because it's a long hit animation. So in terms of the special attack, it is going to be buffs and debuffs that last for 2 turns. In terms of the buffs, he gives you perfect reverse power buffs. So we're looking at plus 15 general strength, plus 15 reverse strength, and plus 15 power strength. He gives all power metals that come after him plus 3,000 power strength for 2 turns. So again, that first turn is going to be plus 3,000. With extra attack, we're looking at plus 6,000. And then on the second turn with that extra attack metal, we are looking at plus 12,000, which is a pretty decent amount of strength. We're starting to hit points where people are going to be wanting that plus 22,000 from things like Strikeform Sora or from things like Supernova plus Xemnas. So being able to hit that is okay. It's not exactly too spectacular, and there's a lot of metals that do that already. In terms of the debuffing, he gives minus 15 general defense and minus 15 reverse defense. Now, he is missing minus 15 power defense, which means that the metal is not self-buffing, and you are going to need something else in order to hit that minus 15 power defense consistently. That's the big word, is consistently hitting that debuff. In terms of the effect, he's got a very unique set of effects. So he has gauge heal plus 3. So if you activate this metal, you don't have an SP gauge reduction skill. You just have something like attack boost 12 max. He's going to eat 5 gauges, but then restores 3. So it's a net of minus 2 gauges for the activation for this metal. That means if you do have an SP reduction skill like gauge 0 or gauge 1, you're going to be restoring gauges in that regard. So that's actually pretty unique. He also does reset count, which is actually pretty good. It's the first metal in a long time that we've seen that does reset count that's also a damaging metal. The last time we saw reset count is going to be with the Winnie the Pooh metals with Rabbit and Piglet, but those weren't really damaging metals. They weren't really spectacular. This is actually a pretty relevant metal that's got that reset count, and it's a very unique niche material that you're going to need every once in a while. He has next metal conversion to power, but really that doesn't matter too much. Again, we've talked about it with other metals like Strikeform Sora. In the top 10 video, we talked about it with Elsa and Kingdom Hearts 3 Yuffie. Being able to convert the next metal into a power metal means that you can save on needing to buy a second power metal. Instead, you can already use a speed metal or a magic metal that you already have and then just convert it to power with Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories Ansem. In terms of the Supernova, not really too much going on here. So it's a 2-turn buff, and in terms of the buffs, it gives you plus 15 reverse strength and plus 15 power strength, and it gives all power metals that come after the Supernova activation plus 6,000 power metal strength. So that means with the 12,000 that we talked about from the special attack on the second turn, you are looking at 18,000 with the Supernova attack. Of course, it gives special attack bonus plus 300% to all metals that come after, which is pretty standard stuff at this point for a tier 10. In terms of the debuffs, he gives minus 15 reverse defense and minus 15 power defense. And all in all, looking at the buffs and debuffs, it's really nothing too spectacular. It is missing the general strength up and the general defense down, and those are the two most important buffs. In terms of buffs and damage, the importance level is going to be general, then it's going to be upright and reverse, and then it's going to be power speed magic in terms of buffing general strength and debuffing general defense. So the fact that the Supernova attack is missing the general strength buff and the general defense debuff is actually pretty bad. It means that you're going to need to have that buff come from somewhere else, like HD Xion or Kingdom Hearts 3 Nominate, or even Strikeform Sora can give you that general strength and that general defense. So in terms of the Supernova, it's actually pretty vanilla. The fact that you need to have another buffing going on means that you're not going to be using this metal alone already. You're going to need a second metal like Kingdom Hearts 3 Nominate or even Strikeform Sora to compensate for the missing buffs and debuffs coming from both the special attack and the Supernova attack. So in terms of the draw odds, there's nothing really special with this metal. It's still going to be that super low chance, and the rule of thumb is going to stay the same. If you can't mercy the metal, if you don't have the 15,000 jewels plus the additional 1,000 to 2,000 jewels to trade him, you do not pull for the metal. So in terms of my thoughts and recommendations, it's a decent reverse power metal, but I don't think it's anything necessary. We've had a lot of good reverse power metals in the past few days. I'd highly recommend even getting something like the Berserker or the Reaper or Final Fantasy VII Remake Sephiroth or Supernova plus Xemnas over getting this particular metal. Those metals just have better utility and they just work better in reverse power slots. Really, it's going to be mainly a PvE metal with that super high multiplier. It's not going to be used for the PvP for the most part, just because it doesn't have any sort of defense piercing, it doesn't have any sort of reflection. It's not really good for raids because, again, that hit count is just too high. So it's really only useful in one aspect of the game, and again, if it's just going to be the multiplier and the strength that make it good, that means it's going to get replaced by a medal that has better strength, or a medal that has a better multiplier. And those medals that rely just on damage to stay relevant don't stay relevant for too long. Again, his utility buff is not really that good, missing the power defense down on the special attack, and then missing the general strength and the general defense down on the Supernova attack. So the fact that we've gotten better reverse medals before him means that he's going to be a skip for most people, especially if you do have a copy of the Reaper, or the Final Fantasy VII Remake Sephiroth, or Supernova ++ Xemnas. Supernova ++ Xemnas, I can argue, is better than this medal, just because this medal you're likely not going to be using alone anyways, so it's going to be like Supernova ++ Xemnas, who you're not going to be using alone anyways, and to that regard, you might as well just go with a better medal, which in this case is Supernova ++ Xemnas. Now, he does have a few unique effects, which I'm going to try and break down here as to why they're not game-breaking for this medal. So they are unique. Resetting count is unique. Next medal power conversion on our reverse power medal is unique. However, it's nothing particularly great, especially when we look at his slot. So the slot that particular Ansem fits is going to be reverse power. And let's take a look at where the reverse power slots are. So in general, you're going to want that Xemnas to be later on in your Keyblade, because he's got a high multiplier and he resets count. Odds are you're going to want to reset that count towards the end of the rotation after you've spent all of the medals. Some of them will reduce the count. You're going to want to reset that at the end with Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories Ansem. So when we look at the Starlight, we're looking at him in this third slot. Now, this is going to be okay because you'll use like Rage Form Sora, copy the Chain of Memories Ansem, turn this medal into power, but then no matter what, you're actually stuck with this upright magic slot, and there's nothing you can do about it because we don't have an upright magic copy medal that is like a tier 10 Supernova++. So you're stuck with this magic slot anyways, so even if you put like a reverse power medal or even an upright power medal here, you're still stuck with this really awkward slot. In terms of the Olympia, you're going to want to put Ansem in this slot, which again, you don't want to have him earlier on. Let's say you have something like Kingdom Hearts 3 Nominee here, which is going to bump up the count of the enemy by 2 with extra attack that's +4, but then you're going to reset it with the Ansem here, and that's going to bring it back down. On average, you don't want to bring a count back down unless you're doing something like recovery buffing. So having him here is just too early. You're not getting the most out of his damage multiplier, and he's resetting a count likely when you do not want to reset a count. It's going to be the same problem with the Moogle of Glory being in the third slot here. So again, we don't have any type of upright blue copy medal that's tier 10, so this is still an awkward slot. So you can still go like Ansem, convert this into magic, Lingering Will, or just another power medal, and then whatever's in your pet slot. But this is still going to be an awkward slot, so it's the same problem that we talked about with the Starlight. In terms of the Stroke of Midnight, he's going to be pretty decent in this last slot here because he'll make the next medal power no matter what it is. However, you're still stuck with all these slots that come before. None of them are going to be power except for this one, and likely you're going to be putting a buffer there. So you're still stuck with 2 upright magic slots and then a reverse green slot. So Stroke of Midnight is better kept for things that are going to be like mono upright blue, where you can have like Luxord here and then you can have the Reaper here. So Stroke of Midnight is still going to be pretty awkward, meaning that the best place for this Chain of Memories Ansem is going to be the mono red Keyblades anyways. So at that point, it doesn't matter what the next medal is going to be. It's not going to be one of those things where you're like, oh, power medal conversion is so good in this case. And if you're just going to be throwing him on the mono Keyblades anyways, he's not as good as other reverse power medals that have come out. So Final Fantasy VII Remake Sephiroth, self-buffing, can give self-buffing, has a great multiplier. Supernova ++ Xemnas ignores attribute, does super effective damage every single time. So there's a lot of better reverse power medals in my opinion, and this guy just falls short. So we talked about why the resetting count and putting it in the wrong spot is bad. We talked about the gauge healing, how it could be replaced with something like Kingdom Hearts 3 Nominee, which restores 5 gauges anyways and is more versatile than Supernova ++ Chain of Memories Ansem. We talked about the next medal conversion to power, how it's not as good on Chain of Memories Ansem as it is on Strike Form Sora, who just has better slots. I didn't really talk about it that much actually. In terms of the resetting count though, we still don't see it a lot. So I have a few reset count medals like Illustrated Sora A, like Illustrated Riku A, but I don't really use it that often. Resetting count is something that only works maybe once every, if I had to guess, like every 3 months I find myself using reset count. So it's a niche utility that doesn't really see a lot of play. So none of the utility that makes Chain of Memories Ansem great is going to be useful in the long run, or I don't use it that often anyway. So the fact that he's unique does not mean he's not replaceable by other medals that are out right now. Really, the people I recommend pulling for this medal are going to be people that lack reverse power and that missed the Reaper, that missed Final Fantasy VII Remake Sephiroth, or that missed the Supernova ++ Xemnas. Those are the people I recommend this to, but really, in my eyes, it's just going to be a damaging medal. It lacks some of the consistent buffs. There are better medals out there, especially if you don't have something like Kingdom Hearts 3 Nominee. I'd recommend saving for sure until you can get a copy of the best buffer medal in the game. So all in all, it's going to be a skip for me, and that's really all I gotta say. It's a damaging medal in my eyes. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer when I have the time. If you'd like to join my Discord, get some off-hours help, the link is right down there in the yellow box. Just type it into your URL, and you're good to go. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take it easy.